Blog Talk Radio.
Is racism hurting you? On issues of race, are you unable to speak, think, and act with clarity and confidence? Are you tired of laughing when nothing is funny, smiling when you are not happy, agreeing when you really disagree? At counterracism.com, you can learn specific strategies and techniques to counter the behaviors of the people who practice racism in all areas of activity, using words correctly, following counter-racist logic, even counter-racist science projects designed to reveal what racism is, how it works, and how to counter it. The open-source code writing format allows you to pick and choose from a variety of counter-racist suggestions so you can produce the code that works for you. Stop by counterracism.com today and help replace racism with justice.
That's counter-racism.com.
I think we're good now. Are you still there with Mr. Fuller?
I'm here.
Okay. Yes, sir. I think we are. I think we're good. When I think we cut out, you were saying that if a non-white female, black female, if she has a child, it's hers. Don't expect any help from anybody else. Not social services or welfare, anything else. And if child leaves the house, you can expect it'll probably be coming back and maybe with another child on board. I think that was about the point that we lost out. Apologies, sir.
Yes. Why am I saying this? Based on evidence. Look all around you and you'll see the evidence. It goes on and on and on. So since that's the way it's set up, you might as well expect it. And don't expect any miracles. Now, I'm not trying to be grim. I'm being realistic. Black people are always using that slang expression, keeping it real.
Mm-hmm.
But black people keep things real less than anybody on the planet.
Wow.
Because we are actors. We act all day long. We're on stage profiling. First of all, pretending that we have sense and direction and purpose and a means of sustaining ourselves. That's what we act out.
Mm-hmm.
And that we have great intelligence. We act that out.
Wait a minute, you say
when none of that is the truth.
You're saying that we act out, we pretend that we have...
We pretend that we have a lot more going for us than we do because we are trying to lie to ourselves, which is one of the worst things, if not the worst, that a person can do.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we invented the term keeping it real. Rather than say we are weak, we're pitiful, we're almost completely helpless. You can walk into a grocery store and just see the black people going up and down the aisles, despair in their faces, looking at the prices on things, talking loud, trying to cover up our fragilities. Not having any idea of how the world is run or who's running it, except we know that we're not. But we're pretending that we are. Every black person's walking up and down the street acting like I have a secret. I know something that the rest of you black people don't know. I'm on the inside track. Everybody shamming. Everybody putting on a false face. In the code book, I describe us as the pitiful people. That is the term that best describes us. All of us are pitiful, meaning worthy of pity. And should ask for it from the people who are not in a pitiful position, and that would be the white supremacists. And don't be ashamed to do it, because that's where we are. We have invisible chains, but they are there. We're just like we were when we were on the slave ship, collectively. And that's from here to Nigeria, to the Congo, to Morocco, to Brazil, to wherever you find black people, you find people who are worthy of pity.
You feel President Obama is included in that? He's worthy of pity?
That is the title, according to what I've written in the book, and I think it's true, based on evidence, that fits every black person on the planet. Just because you're wearing a suit and tie, sitting behind a big polished desk and have a lot of comfort, doesn't say that you're not pitiful. Compared to what? Compared to where you should be. We're subject people. We're victims of racism, regardless of who we are. If you're black, you're a victim of racism. You're subject to the white supremacists. The white supremacists are running an evil system. So when you're subject to an evil system, you're in a pitiful condition. Just on that alone. Just because you're riding around in a fancy car doesn't keep you from being in a pitiful condition. Because your mind and everything else excuse.
No problem.
Is nowhere where it should be. Did that answer some of the questions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I wanted to check because when you were with us the last time, you said that black males and black females, they would have problems regardless, as long as there is a system of injustice. The male-female situation would be.
Oh yes, you can't get it like it. You can't get it like it ought to be. That's a given, and you have to make up your minds to that. It shouldn't be all this squabbling and whatnot. I mean about that, because we are acting like we're going to get it, or that we can get it like it ought to be. It's no way to get it like it ought to be. You can make it. You can make it functional. I mean, but see, you don't have control over anything. See, that's the key. Black male, black female, chained together at the bottom of the slave ship naked, with absolutely nothing, because everything has to come from the captain of the ship, who is always white. So therefore, knowing that you don't have this control, you can't make demands on each other. Nor can you can't make demands of any kind on anybody, including the captain of the ship. We're already in captivity. We never have stopped being. We have to realize that. We're prisoners of war. That's a different position altogether from this going your own way and doing your own thing. Like you hear some black people say, getting our own land and all this type of thing. Getting your own land where? The white supremacists run the planet and getting ready to run other planets. And we don't even know how to get across town. They know how to get across the universe. That's what I mean by a pitiful condition. Yet we spend too much time running around bragging to each other.
Wow.
You ain't the one supposed to say you ain't the one supposed to say quitting time. I'm the one supposed to say quitting time.
Wow.
Over on the other side of the tracks. Super Negro on a small island assigned to him by the white supremacists, racist man and racist woman. And so you turn to the other black people and talk about how great you are. Woman, you look up to me. I'm the head of the household. You're not the head of anything. No black male is the head of anything. And we ought to stop shamming. But if somebody tells us that, we get angry, and then we take out a pistol that the racists provided for us, and we start shooting every black person in sight. And then we feel like we have accomplished something. We've gone from being pitiful to super stupid.
Wow.
And just proved it.
I was curious because you're in the D.C. area, and I just saw in the newspaper less than a week ago that there were a lot of, it looked like mostly black males, but a lot of black people in D.C., and they were upset with President Obama and saying that they were making demands. I caught that word specifically. They said they were making demands that he do things that they wanted and help black people, non-white people. Very upset with him. Did you see all of that, and did you have a view on the black people who were upset with President Obama?
No, but I knew it was going to happen. First time I heard President Obama's name as being a person who was a candidate for president.
You knew black people were going to get angry.
Well, you always know that. Black people themselves know that. Man, I hope he gets it so I can throw some rocks at him. I got to throw rocks at somebody. I can't stand my condition. I can't stand me. I don't want to hurt me, so I'm going to hurt him as soon as he get in position to get hurt. If President Obama would step down tomorrow, black people would be accusing him of doing that. He said, well, if you say that I'm not doing what I should do, I quit. Quit? Now you're going to complain about that. See, black people go through life always looking for some other black person to complain about. Why? Because it covers up our own individual weaknesses. It's easy to do. One of the easiest things in the world to do, a sport enjoyed by all. Just can't wait for a black person to get elected because we got a pile of rocks to throw at him the day that he gets inaugurated. And we know that that's what we're planning on doing. It's not like, we're taken by surprise that nothing happened if we didn't get any goodies. We know we're not going to get nothing because we know where goodies come from. Mr. Obama is not in position to hand out anything to black people, period. And we already know that, but we like to pretend that we don't know that. We know that. We know that he has to ask white people to help him to help black people. And if the white people don't want to do it, the help ain't going to happen, period. Now, we know this. We've been knowing this. By the time we get to be about 20 years old, we know it for sure.
Can I slip a question in real quick?
Yes, sir.
Do you think a significant number of non-white people are really confused about the fact that President Obama is not in charge and that he cannot do anything that the most powerful white people do not allow him to do? Do you think a significant number of us are really confused about that and really think, he's president, he's in charge?
I don't know what the percentage is, but I think most black people know that President Obama cannot tell white people what to do. No more than they can. He can ask, but you can ask. I can ask. That's why if I hear some white person, and I'll do it because the code requires me to do it, some white person complaining about what Obama's doing, I'll just simply say, well, why don't you do it? You got more power than he has because he doesn't have any power except the power that comes from you. And you're standing right next to me. So I don't ask Obama for nothing. I'm asking you. Why should I go to him when everything that he gets it from you? So if I want it, I ask you. Yeah, that's what you tell Brian right there on the job.
Wow.
And Brian will say, like he most likely was set up to say, I don't have nothing myself. Say, yeah, well, but you know people who do because they live next door to you.
Wow.
I can't reach them. You can.
we just had.
You're talking about your granddaddy. See, that's what you tell Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, my granddaddy, I mean, you know, he's in, you know, I'm in Ohio, and he's in, you know, he's down in Texas. Say, yeah, right. And if you got anything at all, he helped you to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Old World War II veteran. He's riding around there retired on his tractor. He helped you, your sister, and everybody else. He put you all through school and all like that. Made the connections, got you that job, got your cousin that job. Even if you dropped out of school and whatnot, you don't drop very far because you got a safety net. Most white people have a safety net. They got a network. Black people don't have it.
Wow.
Everybody that black people goes to is broke. I mean, other black people. They don't have nothing. Every now and then you'll find one or two black people, I mean, who are basketball players alongside Michael Jordan or somebody, but that is not the average for the entire world. The average white person that you pass on the street. Now, I began to study that some years ago. It was a white man up in Georgetown here in Washington. And everybody knew him. They called him the Wolf Man because he wore a long beard and long, scraggy hair. And he was out on the street. I mean, cold weather. He barely had enough clothes, I mean, to cover him. Sleeping on park benches. So some people who worked at some of the office buildings around there, including some black people, they went out there and started leaving him food and all like that, trying to help him. And one summer day, some interviewer sat down next to him and asked about him. Said, "Where'd you come from?" You know. Said, "They call you the Wolf Man. You've been around here for years and whatnot." Said, "What happened to you?" Said, "You know, maybe we can help you. You get on your feet and whatnot. I mean, you seem to have a little bit of sense and whatnot, and all like that." He said, "I don't need any help." He said, "People come and leave stuff here and all like that." He said, "I really don't need it." He said, "I got folks that got plenty of money. Been trying to get me to come stay with them and all like that. I don't want to go. I don't like them." Now, how many black people can say that who are out here on a park bench? See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And that tells you something right there. Now, I'm not saying all. There are some white people that don't have anything going for them, but they are in a real small minority. Because when you see a white person even, you know, out here on the street and whatnot, when you look into it, you know, there's a lot of places they could be, but they just don't want to be there. Black person is there because they can't help it. It ain't no place for them to go.
Wow.
The people that they're looking to help them are in the same shape they're in.
We just had an admitted racist on the program on Sunday, and she said almost verbatim exactly what you just said about just being white. You have assets in that you have access to other white people.
Access. There you go. Having access. See, I mean, there are young white guys, I mean, who are up in Montana somewhere, I mean, you know, just hanging out, I mean, you know, and out in Oakland, California, or San Francisco, I mean, just kind of hanging out on the street and getting tattoos and whatnot, and kind of coked out. But if you talk to them on an individual basis, they'll say, "Oh, I got an uncle that lives in Cape Cod, always trying to get me to come up there and go fishing on his yacht and all like that." Hell, I don't like the bastard, you know. Yeah. Now, how many black people can say that? Yes, said his wife is always out here, you know, getting the police trying to find out where I am. I'm tired of them harassing me.
Wow. That is exactly what she said. She said that even if you're a white person and you don't have a lot of money and you don't have the best job, just being white gives you a ton of access and resources that you would not have if you were a non-white person, especially if you are a black person. And she talked about that. She said exactly what you said about the safety net, that white people have a lot more help if things do go bad. They have a lot more help, whether it's family members, friends, just any white person willing to reach out a hand and look out for them, whereas for black people, they just don't have access to anybody who can help them, people that they know are struggling and just, trying to get by themselves. I also wanted to ask as well, I saw someone, they were listening in the chat room, and their handle that it was racial, I think it was racial reconciliation, and I have seen that word before, and I asked a non-white person, because this person actually said they worked at a job, and what they did was racial reconciliation, and I said, well, what does that mean? And she said, I don't know. And I looked at her and I said, don't you think that's something's incorrect about that? That you work for this place, you make money, and you don't know what that term means? And she said, well, we work against racism, and she didn't really see that was a major problem. Do you feel that non-white people, we really have, I would say, glaring deficiencies in our ability to communicate effectively?
Sure. We don't communicate effectively and constructively with each other. Mm-hmm. This is why I said what I said about keeping that distance. Mm-hmm. We work very well when we are assigned to do something, or even when we assign ourselves to do something that is of constructive value. Mm-hmm. But we cannot interact beyond that. We try to, but we fall into the mold and the pattern of what we call the inside black culture. I mean, the way we interact with each other on a one-on-one basis. And we glorify it. And it's nothing but garbage. The way we talk to each other, our conversations, nothing to it. It's not productive. And we've been doing it so long, we don't even know that it's not productive. That's the way that we talk, our ordinary conversations. I mean, black people should move among each other silently. I mean, and somebody falls down, everybody rushes to pick them up and all like that, and brush them off and whatnot, ask them if they're all right. And the minute we determine that they're all right, get away from them. Because we'll spread poison. And they'll spread poison to us. We don't interact with each other in a constructive manner. Now, that would not be true among other non-white people who, they are subject to white supremacy too, but they function much better on a one-on-one basis. Case in point, the average black person, if he's put in the midst of a bunch of Japanese in Japan, he'd be completely lost. Because all day long, they are ultra polite to each other, for the most part. And when they get mad, I mean, they really go at it. They go at each other. But that's very rare. And they're always very humiliated when they do get mad. They get so full of shame, they want to commit suicide. And this is why they have, they're kind of harmonious people. Because they, all day long, they are, paying tribute one to the other, but they move silently. And they, when they interact with someone, they're almost shy in their manner. And when they approach you, it's for a obvious, well thought out, constructive reason. I mean, they'll watch you for a long time and ascertain that you're lost. You don't know where you're going, but they won't say anything. They'll just look at you blank face. But when they see that you're just about stressed out and you don't, wits in, you don't know what you're doing, they will come and offer, almost timidly, their help. Now, once they offer it and you accept it, They go all the way. They not only point you in the right direction, they take you there. See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Now, I know because that was done to me when I was in Japan. Of course, that was back in the 1950s. They were even more ultra that way then than they are now. But, I mean, not only did he take me there, he carried my bags. See what I mean?
Yes,
and they were heavy. And he was a lot smaller than me. But he insisted. I mean, he would consider it, I mean, hey, the height of, not an insult, but he would consider that he wasn't doing his duty if he didn't do all that. Walked about 3 blocks to Ueno Station, which was the subway in downtown Tokyo, because I didn't know where I was. I couldn't read Japanese. I'm looking at signs. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm lost, So he did that and would not accept any compensation at all. I mean, considered, a loss of face to accept something for doing what he considered to be his duty. Absolute duty, no question. I mean, I'm Japanese. This is what a Japanese does. If there's anything to him Japanese at all, even if he's half drunk and he sees you in need like that, I mean, a stranger, lost in his city, no. I mean, he's got to move now, He got to sober up right quick. Otherwise, it's loss of face. You might get here and act different and all like that, but I'm talking about when you're raised up that way in your schools, hey, so it makes for efficiency. It's an excellent way to live. Like I said, not a whole lot of talk. That's another thing. See, I mean, it's considered very impolite to have a whole lot of talk going just to be talking. You don't assault people like that. Verbal assault. That's what they would call it.
So for black people specifically,
yes,
you feel like one way to correct our deficiencies with communication is to just minimize the amount of contact.
Minimize the amount of contact, and you minimize conflict. Okay. All non-constructive contact. In other words, when the phone rings or when you're waving at somebody down the street and you're trying to catch up with them and all like that, you got a reason, a specific reason. You're going to be helpful because something constructive is going to come out of this, something very constructive, something that is needed.
One thing that I see in my view, it is a big problem, particularly I would say amongst the black people, when we do make an effort to get together to discuss racism, you kind of got to communicate then. And I feel like our deficiencies in communication really become obvious when we get together to discuss or share views on racism, white supremacy. I know, or at least I have read your book, and I'm familiar with the 10 Stops. I guess, can you share your views on what you've seen when black people get together and express their views on racism and why it can be not constructive, a lot of conflict, and what we can do to try to do a better job at sharing views when we do get together to discuss racism? Because
black people are trying to show how much one knows more than the other rather than keeping their mind on what it is they're trying to do. They're trying to solve the race problem. It takes a lot of time and energy and a lot of high power thinking to do something constructive along those lines. But what we do is just trying to upstage each other. What we try to do when we do everything. It's called showing off. It's one of the show-off-isms, trying to show how much we know to each other. We're not trying to show it to the rest of the world. Because they can see to it that we don't know much of anything. That's why we're in the shape we're in. But we love to show off to each other. which is why I say you never should see a black person celebrating anything. We're not qualified. Never. I don't care what it is. We have no cause for celebration. But you take even the football players. I mean, the white people know it so much about us that they, make restrictions on it about the football game, even though people say it's just a game and all like that. But they are saying, that it sends even a deeper message. It goes to show you how primitive we are. Because the black guy, like I saw a black guy do that, a ball player, I forgot what team he's on, that was this year. I think I may have mentioned it to you before. I mentioned it to somebody. He's running down the field with his weaves and whatnot, trailing behind him. Struggling to be a man. Struggling to be recognized. That's what the weave's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to me. That's what that is. Drop what you're doing and stop what you're doing and look over here and pay attention to me. So now when he's carrying a football down the field, and he was making it, he was outrunning everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got near the end of the goal line, he could see the people jumping up and down, the ladies in their skirts and whatnot, the pep squad and whatnot, the cheering squad, they jumping up and down. He's grinning and running. And he ran into the end zone and ran out of the end zone, and jumped right into the crowd up there like we do. But he threw the ball down before he got in the end zone. And the people were screaming and yelling, you idiot and whatnot, and he's still running and grinning because he wasn't aware that he threw the ball down. Mm-hmm. And that's the story of black people's lives in the modern day since they took the chains off. Too quick to celebrate and haven't done nothing but dropped the ball. In fact, threw it down. Concentrating on a celebration more than the accomplishment. And that's the story of our lives.
Wow.
Now, I saw that. I had given a description of that type of thing long before it happened, but this year it happened. I said, black people, we're the cheeringest people, we're the paradingest people. We want to take up the entire sidewalk so that everybody will see us more than anybody on earth, not to be doing nothing that warrants any attention at all. And we need to look at ourselves and say, hey, no more of this. Let the white people cheer. They got something to cheer about. We ain't cheering about nothing. We're in a pitiful state. In fact, we haven't even gotten started. We're not even at the starting line, not to say nothing about it. We're not even in the stadium.
There was an different admitted racist on this program during the summer, and I told her that as long as white supremacy exists, it's my view that there should not be any celebrating for any white person or non-white person who is attempting to work against racism, because we got a lot of work to do, and the system is still here. So as long as that is the case, we should not be jumping up and down for anybody. I said we shouldn't be cheering Tim Wise. We shouldn't be cheering Dr. Welsing, Mr. Fuller, anybody, because
anybody for anything. You just nod. And say, well, okay, we'll move on to phase 2. Once you accomplish something, I don't care what it is, going to the moon and whatnot. Hey, no cheering, no parades, no nothing. Curing cancer. Okay, well, what is there? What's that? Finally got it done this morning. All right, now we'll start working on, tuber or whatever, the flu virus. What's number 2 on the list?
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly. And
they say, well, how long have we been working on curing cancer? Well, like forever. And we finally got it cured as of 9 o'clock this morning. We got it. We got it all, all cancers are now been cured. Now, what's number 2? Everybody go down, take about 15 minutes, take a 15-minute break and wash your hands and all like that and start on number 2. That should definitely be black people's position and white people's too. You know.
I agree completely. This admitted racist was furious.
Now people will say, well, just be uptight all the time. No. You're relaxed. That's the whole point. You're relaxed, but you're concentrating on things that need doing. You know, you take your breaks when you get tired and all like that. Sit down and rest. You know, you're not uptight. You know, because that's out of balance. Being stressed out. You're not stressed out. But, I mean, when you accomplish something that needs accomplishing, you say, hey, you know, never should have had cancer in the first place. But somebody messed up, you know. So now, after 500 years, I mean, we got it like it ought to be, you know. Put it back the way it ought to have been in the first place, you know, before somebody messed up. Okay, and breathe a sigh of relief, you know. Get a good night's sleep. Say, okay, well, we start on the next project.
I agree completely.
I mean, and you're relaxed. I mean, you know, you take that, but no celebrating. It don't call for a parade.
Exactly.
Never should have been in the first place. Exactly. When we overcome racism, no calls for a parade. None. We just simply say, man, never should have been in the first place. We're so far behind. Now we can probably start on the project that will get us where we should have been when we got interrupted by 1,000 years of racism.
For sure.
Yeah. See, and then start from there.
We had several folks actually called in. Are you okay taking some questions?
Yes, sir. No problem.
Okay. I'm going to do the last 4 digits. I got 4404, last 4 digits. Are you there? 4404?
Yeah, just listening for now. Thank you.
Okay. You can press 1. Anybody can call in. You have a question. Let's see. Is this Justice? Are you there, Justice? Oh, don't hear her. 9992. Anyone else there? Question? Comment? Just listening. Oh, okay. Do you see a hand up? I see 111. You're showing all 1. You have a hand up? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yep. Okay, go right ahead, sir.
This guy sounds like a really intelligent person to me. I'm a big fan of I Just Can't Understand. I mean, granted, I'm only 39 years old, but I got friends that are the same age as me, grew up in the same neighborhood as me, and they've never, that I've seen, and we used to hang out a lot, never even been subject to racism, but once we, got older a little bit and they went their way and I went mine and I met up with them, later on in life, they got this attitude that, oh man, my people and we were treated so bad for so long, and I'd ask them, say, look here, Josh, what are you talking about? You and I grew up in the same place, and this gentleman seems to kind of, understand more along the lines of, hey, we need to get over it, and especially if it never happened to you.
May I ask, are you a white person or a non-white person?
I'm black.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we grew up in the same town, right out, side of Detroit, Michigan. There was only about three of us that hung out that were black. Oh no, 4, because Ramon was with us. 4 of us, and we all grew up in the, like I said, same neighborhood, same everything. And my one buddy Josh, he just he swears to this day that the whites did us wrong for all these years and blah blah blah. Well, I don't buy into that.
Well, that's a prerogative. I mean, a person can say that they don't buy into it, but that's a statement that a person is entitled to make. But I have taken the position that these crimes were committed and are being committed now. Otherwise, there would be no point in my presentation as of this moment.
Right. Well, it did take place. I've heard about it. Heard about my grandparents, the whole 9 yards. I get that, but it didn't happen to me. So I can't just keep bringing up something that happened to my grandparents years ago. I can't dwell on that.
If it's not happening to you now, then that's very fortunate for you, and I'd like to know how that was done, because I have made the statement consistently that if a person is non-white, that person is, as of this minute, not 100 years ago or 500 years ago, subject to the system of racism. System of racism is a worldwide system. It takes in everybody who's non-white. And that is why I wrote my book, and that's why I'm having this conversation now. Now, that is either true or false. Now, just because I said it's true doesn't make it true. But in my evaluation, it is true, because I've never seen any situation that wasn't dominated by racism. I've never seen it, and I've never heard of it, because I was searching for it. I've always searched for a situation that was not dominated by racism. I have never seen it, and I've never heard of it. In all my travels and whatnot, I've never talked to anybody who says they know of a situation like that. And once I've talked to people who said that they didn't believe that that was a situation. So, but on examination, when I talked and asked certain questions about economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, I've never been in a situation or talked to someone who has been in a situation where racism didn't dominate one or more of those activities. Of course, if it dominates one, it'll dominate the rest of them too. That's what domination means. Once a person gets domination of one essential part of a person's existence, that's any kind of domination. Once a person dominates one essential part, that person or persons will dominate all the other parts, because all of the parts are interconnected. They're not disconnected. So it's just like a chain reaction. In other words, like holding the end of a chain. Now, the chain may go over a building and through a building and around the corner and up under the ground and whatnot. But if that chain is around your neck or around your wrist or whatever, whoever jerks that chain, even though they are out of sight, you're going to feel it, because you're connected to the chain, and they're connected to the chain.
You're just kind of sounds like to me that you're just, pushing it along even more. I mean, you're not wanting to get over it. You're just wanting to make an excuse for it.
Oh, well, I could do that if it didn't exist. See what I mean?
Well, it doesn't.
That's the only way I can make an excuse. Now, if like the conversation started off saying that it existed a long time ago, my grandparents' day and all like that. Well, it did exist then, but what I'm saying is it exists now. I don't believe in fighting a battle that's long been finished, and no one should. That's complete insanity. I mean, that is certainly, you're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. See, but the problem that I'm saying does exist in all of the areas of activity, and it exists 24/7 worldwide. Now, whether a person recognizes that or not, that's a different story.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. Yeah, I understand that. It just seems to me like, how can you continue a battle that nothing, that you had nothing to do with, and like you said, if it's been started like when my buddy Josh's grandparents, it happened to them. But like I said, to my best knowledge, it never happened to us. We grew up in the same place. We hung around the exact same people. We weren't treated any different than the white kids, and I just have a hard time with it now when I go home and see him, that now all of a sudden he's I don't even have words, but
he's what? What is it he's doing? He's saying something about racism?
Yeah, and he's been it's been in his family for years, and And so now he's got an attitude even against some of the guys we hung out with when we were little, and, he just brings it up, and it's, like I said, until we were 17, 18 years old, it never happened to us, but he's making it sound like he's got to, take over a fight that maybe his grandparents, had a long time ago.
Okay, well, let's look at your associate, Josh. Could it be that what he's saying, he's not making it up, and he's not talking about the past? Could it be possible that he's talking about something he's looking at right now, and that what he is saying is that he sees it, but that you don't? Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Well, see, that could be the case. Now, it could be, like you said, that he's making it up, but I don't think he's making it up, because I see it too. And I've always seen it. I've never been in a situation where I didn't see it. Now, if I was looking for it and it wasn't there, then that's something different. And I've heard people say that, saying, well, I'm looking at the same thing that you're looking at, but I don't see what you see. And I say, yes, I know. That's the treachery of the way racism works. That sometimes you can be looking at it, and I have this in the book that I wrote. In racial matters, many look, but few see. See what? See what they're looking at. You're looking at it, but you don't see it. Like an optical illusion.
But if you're constantly looking for it, then, that's just like they say.
No, but you can only see it if it's there. Otherwise, you are making it up, in which case nobody should do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you're telling me just a second ago that you look for it. Well, if you're looking to see if something is racist, you're constantly, you got blinders on. You're looking for it, and you'll take any little, section of conflict or whatever and say, oh, that's racism. That's not because of, his bad attendance. That's racism. Because that's what you're looking for is what it sounds like.
But see, the thing that I claim, that when I do look for it, I see it. Because it is there. But it's not supposed to be there. That's the key. It's not supposed to be there.
But you're looking.
No matter how hard I look, I'm not supposed to ever find it. Because it's not supposed to be there. Racism should not exist. That's the whole point. Just like cancer should not exist. See, now I can look past cancer, I can not recognize it deliberately, or I can recognize it deliberately, but I make up my mind that I'd rather not think about it, so therefore if I don't think about it and I'm not feeling the pain directly at that moment, because I'm laughing about something, like a cancer patient has laughed, but the cancer patient still has cancer. See what I mean? So racism is the same way. Black people laugh all the time. They're the laughingest people in the world, collectively. Nobody laughs like black people. In fact, there's more jokes made about laughing black people than anything else. Even in the old days, when it was right in your face, this thing called racism, black people laughed more then than they do now. Black people were the biggest jokesters because they were trying to hide the pain. That's why. But over a period of years, they laughed less and less as the pain began to go away because they were laughing at the pain. They were trying to laugh off the pain. And now a lot of us try to put on the blinders to not see what is causing a world problem. Now, a person can look at President Obama and say, he doesn't really have a problem, like President Obama said himself, I'm trying to get health care for the people that don't have it. See, I have health care, me and my whole family. I will never have to worry about health care. I will get top-of-the-line health care. I already know that. He said, I'm trying to get it for the people that don't have it. He said, so if you're talking about me individually, he said, yes, I got health care, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not supposed to be concerned about other people not having it. See what I mean? So racism is the same way. There are some people who say, well, I've been able to skirt it, and I've been able to get by, and I've been able to do this. In the neighborhood that I was brought up in, I was able to shield myself from it. But see, the fact that you shield yourself from it means that it's there. and it shouldn't be there for you to shield yourself from it. I mean, that's the whole purpose, because when you try to move away, just like in the case of your friend Josh, when you try to reconnect with him, he's been hit by it full force, and his behavior shows it, and that saddens you, but that's a fact. And the reason it's a fact is because he ran into it when he just moved just a little bit, and it hit him full force. Really, it had him full force all the time, and that's when it's really painful.
If I just wanted to ask the caller quickly, if I could. Sir, if I may ask, and I hope you don't take offense at this, I just have found it's important. It's, in my view, it's very helpful information. Are you engaged, or have you ever been engaged in a sexual relationship with a white person?
No.
Okay. Just curious. So are you saying that you have never been mistreated because you're not white?
Not that I know of. I mean, I've had things with many people, and I mean, granted, there's always some bonehead, but that that whether he's black or white, it doesn't matter to me. I've come across boneheads, but I find myself finding more of my own quote brothers that would do me wrong more so than the white guys that I hang out with.
And I can see why that would be, because that's the effect that racism has. The very fact that when you interact with black people, they are hostile toward you, or they mistreat you, and they you don't get the kind of reaction that you should get from people when those people are black. And there's a reason for that. They've been affected by racism to the extent that nobody would want to be around them. And that makes sense, because the system of racism itself produces black people that nobody wants to be around, including other black people. That is the effect of racism itself. That's not just something that happened because black people have this peculiarity about them that makes them into monsters and monstrosities. No, that's a system that does that. So black people, by the nature of being under the system of white supremacy, are made into creatures that nobody wants to be around, including the black people themselves. They don't want to be around each other and can hardly stand themselves. But since you got to be with yourself, there's nowhere else to go. I mean, if you are you, you're you. So what can you do? And so therefore you turn that outwardly, because there's nowhere else but to turn it inwardly, in which case you would be suicidal all the time, which is what black people really are. But we just don't go that extra step. Black people are very suicidal because black people cannot stand themselves. They can't stand other black people, and they can't stand themselves. Because when they look at other black people, they see themselves, and they can't stand what they see. Because we have already been made into creatures that are unworthy of being around anything. But the system did that. We weren't born like that. We were all born just little wide-eyed, curious children. But we were turned into monsters and monstrosities. I myself am a monstrosity. The very fact that I'm having this conversation in 2009 proves that I'm a monstrosity. What's a monstrosity? A monstrosity is a creature that is out of sync, out of balance. A person who is in the midst of a whole bunch of problems that can't be solved or apparently aren't being solved. That's a monstrosity. I'm one.
Unfortunately, me too, as long as the system of white supremacy exists. Caller, you can hang tight. We had some other folks that called in. I want to make sure I get other questions, but please hang on the line, and I'll get back to you if you have some other questions or comments you would like to make. 916, are you there with a question? 916.
Gus, I'm on a speakerphone, so I'm just going to listen in. But how are you, Mr. Fuller? This is Jamie from California.
Oh, okay. Greetings, sir. The gentleman 916 who called in, he suggested another non-white male who is familiar with your work, Dr. Robert Williams. He's familiar with your work, and Dr. Francis Cresswell's, and he's going to be on the program on Tuesday. Very interesting book. He talks about how white people have been, how white people are programmed to be racist and maintain the system of white supremacy. So hopefully that'll be constructive on Tuesday. Before I check the other caller, I did want to ask Mr. Fuller. I think that was a great illustration. Some of the people in the chat room, they were saying that they felt the first caller who called in, they felt he was kind of riled up a little bit at first. Didn't think that there was racism. Didn't feel he was mistreated. And I feel like I've been in a lot of situations where that could have been conflict. And I feel like you demonstrate often just an excellent way of sharing your view without it becoming confrontational, without yelling and getting upset at the other person. Do you have some, I guess, suggestions for if you're going to have a discussion with non-white people about racism, how they can navigate that situation as constructively as possible without it getting into arguments, without it just trying to be showing off how much I know and put the other non-white person down?
So staying focused on what it is you're trying to do, and say that every person who is a victim of racism is entitled to the victim's guaranteed qualifications. I call it VGQ. Mm-hmm. Victim's guaranteed qualification means you're qualified to say anything about race, racism, or counter-racism that you choose to say. You earn that by being a victim. That's not anything that you have to go somewhere and get from somebody and get authorized. No. By being a victim of racism, you can say anything about your victimization that you want to say. You can say racism doesn't exist. You can say it does exist. You can say what to do about it, what not to do about it, what's the best way to go about doing about it. But that's from your perspective. You're entitled to that. You're guaranteed that qualification. And I came up with that because I saw that black people are always getting in conflict with each other about what to do about racism, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the way to not get in conflict is to say that everybody's opinion on it is valid. No such thing as an invalid opinion. You know, you can have your opinion, but whether that opinion can gel into something that will be constructive in ending racism is yet to be proven. The only experts on racism are the racists themselves. So black people in the whole of the ship, chained to each other, they can discuss all about the merits or demerits about what they know about the slave ship. But the fact is they're still all on the ship. So they can give their opinions about the ship all they want to. That's the illustration I give. That's the picture I want black people to have in their minds. We are all chained together in the bottom of the ship. So everybody's got their opinion about where the ship is going and how it's being run and what they think about the captain. Some people say, well, they've been on a slave ship before, but they escaped, you know, and that one that they was on before was much worse than the one they own now. So, and they say, and on this particular one, they get better food than they got on the last one. So they make all these comparisons. But at the end of the day, they're all chained together at the bottom of that ship. That's the thing to keep in mind. So they can agree or disagree in a conversation all up and down the line as slaves chained together about their plight. Or some slave might say, well, hey, I'm eating better on this slave ship than I ever ate before I got on it. From that little village that I came from, we didn't have nothing because all the animals had left and we couldn't grow nothing, and I was hungry all the time. So somebody will say that. And then other slaves will say, you got to be crazy, man. You know, how you going to be better off on a slave ship? Don't you believe in your own freedom and whatnot? Go where you please and do what you want to and all like that? And, well, man, y'all can say what y'all want to, but I'm all right. It's all right with me. I don't know what tribe you come from. But see, so they can argue back and forth, but they shouldn't get into a big fight and start hitting each other with the chains, okay? Because that's not going to help anybody. Because they're all chained together on the bottom of the ship. And the captain will come down there and say, you're disturbing my sleep, and so I'm going to give you all a good whipping. And see to it that you keep quiet down here while I try to get to my destination. After all, you seem to forget who's in charge here. So I got ways of reminding you in about 10 minutes. Then he will go back up the ladder and everything gets quiet. And I've seen that happen over and over again.
Yeah, that is one thing I really wish more non-white people, we would work on, all of us, myself included, in when we have discussions with non-white people, and I would even say white people.
You have that illustration, and if you're making a recording of this, you can record that part. That's a reminder. We haven't left that ship. Not in charge or nothing. I mean, there ain't no big Negroes. It ain't no, you ain't the one supposed to say quitting time. I'm the one supposed to say quitting time. None of you supposed to say quitting time until that guy with the whip says. Because it might not be quitting time. And it definitely isn't if he says so. So you're all down here arguing about who's going to say quitting time. I'm the one who determines when quitting time is. And since you all are so smart, it ain't going to be no quitting time today. You're going to work all night. How you like that?
Wow. Yes, sir. I'm hoping that people will listen to this and think about it. And again, these are suggestions, as is your the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, suggestions for things that non-white people can do to work against the system of racism, white supremacy. I did want to point out many white people, a lot of them admitted racists, have vehemently asserted that they think non-white people are not ignorant about racism. They feel that some of them have even said that they think non-white people are much more informed about racism than white people. Could you share your views on that if you feel that is an accurate statement?
Now, who says this?
These are white people. Why I have no.
Who say that non-white people are much more informed?
Yes.
About racism?
Yes.
Sure, because if I'm a white man in a slave system, which is what white supremacy is, it's a slave system. Slavery did not end. Racism itself is slavery. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Because it's being made to do things under a system that's not just. So that's slavery. Okay. Based on color. That's what white supremacy is. That's that form of slavery. So, if I'm a sailor on the ship and I'm white, now, there are some things that I don't like about the captain because he's barking at me and talking about, I haven't done this and I haven't done that. And the last time I was down below deck, I didn't secure. It was 2 or 3 slaves down there didn't have the chains put on properly. See, I mean, even when you're running a slave ship, you got to have a code for doing things. So, I'm a sailor, a white sailor, and I'm on the deck of the ship, and the captain is giving me down the road about it. Said, now, those 5 slaves back there, near the end of the ship, every day when you go down there, I mean, to take some buckets of food to them, slop and whatnot, I mean, and you release them one at a time, I mean, to help you distribute the food. And when you put them back in their chains, you don't do it properly. So I'm going to see to it that your food rations are cut if it happens again. Now, I don't like that, But here's what. It ain't the same as being a slave down there. See what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, it's a comparative thing. See, that's just like a lot of white people say, hey, black people always complaining about white people having it so good. I don't have it all that good. Well, see, what you respond to that is, well, if you think that as a white person you got it bad, try being black.
The thing that
try being black in the neighborhood where you are right now. And see, won't you see a change? Right? You'll start noticing the difference. Maybe not right away, but I mean, something you'll begin to, after about several weeks, you'll perceive that something is out of order.
Even amongst your own family members, I suppose.
Yeah, everybody's acting different. I mean, what's going on here? Am I on another planet? Yeah, see, so that answers the question, I think. I mean, you don't perceive it. When you're a sailor on the slave ship, you have some hardships. You're the one in a storm. I mean, you can't bring the black people up on deck. I mean, to get up there in the rigging and whatnot. Black people get up there and tear the sails down. I mean, you won't be able to go nowhere. Nobody's going nowhere. You're drifting now. Furthermore, they won't know what they're doing, So you can't use them. See, so you got to get up on that yard arm yourself in the storm. You got to take that sail down and mend it. Not enough space down below for them to do it. Another thing, they're not going to do a good job because they don't know how. And even if they did know how, you can't trust them. So you got to mend that sail yourself. Okay? Yes, a white person on the slave ship. Stop and think. Those slave ships weren't all that big. There's a lot of work to be done. Plus just having to put up with the odors. I mean, what white person wanted to work on a slave ship? And you got slaves down there living in a toilet. And for 8 months, you got to be up there on deck with all of that smell coming up there right past your nose. All right? So when a white person says, well, there's no picnic for me too, say, but you still better off. You better off up on deck, I'll tell you. If you don't believe it, come down that ladder and you get in the chains. I'll go up on deck in a minute. Take my place.
For sure.
Yeah, you're right. You're complaining about being a sailor on a slave ship. I mean, hey, try being a slave on a slave ship. Yeah, see, it's all by comparison. See what I mean? People that work on jobs know about that. Guy comes down the line, said, hey, my wife's sick, and my daughter, I mean, she's acting up and all like that, and he's talking about this and talking about that, it's costing me a whole lot of money to keep my oldest daughter in school. Say, man, I can't send nobody in my family to school. The money I'm making. You're talking about how much it's costing you. Hey, I mean, you're able to pay. I mean, I'll never even be able to even consider it.
Even if I have
not what I'm making, not what y'all paying me here. It's all by comparison.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir. Wow. I definitely want to use that illustration that you just pointed out in terms of the slave master on the ship. He's got to know how to operate that ship because you certainly can't trust the slaves to get up and navigate.
I mean, it's not easy. I mean, a lot of people say that white people don't work hard. You got to really work hard. I noticed that when I was in the military because I was yes. In other words, now I'm getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, okay? But then it instantly hit me. I said, that white corporal that comes in here banging on things and throwing trash cans around and whatnot and saying, everybody out of here in 15 minutes in full gear, standing at attention, the one thing that I noticed immediately, he had to get up earlier than me in order to get me up. See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
But the thing about it, the difference was he figured it was to his long-term advantage. All right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because he's trying out for sergeant. I mean, and moving on up the ladder. That's the way that works. See, but he's got to work harder than me. I mean, I never had a trainer that wasn't doing the same thing that I was doing and doing it a whole lot better. Okay? Which means he had to train to do that. I got down and did 20 push-ups. The sergeant was doing 50 push-ups on one hand. Okay?
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
See, so the white supremacists are the hardest working people in the world. They don't mind work. Because they got to know how to do work in order to make me do it. But what they like is being master. And they know that a master has to work in order to have slaves. But they enjoy it. See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
That's the difference. They enjoy it. To them, that's the payoff. People ask me, what is it that the white supremacists want? I said, they already got what they want. They just want to keep doing it. They want supremacists. They say, well, are they after money and whatnot? Are they after land and whatnot? They got money. They got land. Where do you think money comes from? It comes from them. They're not looking for money. Money comes from them. Stop and think. Money doesn't make them. They make money. Then they tell you, when they give you some, they tell you what it's worth. And they change the worth of it all the time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I had an admitted white supremacist. He said, and I quoted him, he said, he was talking about white people. He said, we work harder to work easier. And
yes.
Non-white people.
Yes. It's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean?
Yes,
in other words, they initially see they know that's the nature of things. That's the nature of a farmer understands that. Okay. You work hard in order to have rest time longer. Okay? The harder you work now, the longer period you'll have of rest later because you'll have a harvest coming in. You work hard at getting that harvest in. But once you get it in, you got food all winter. See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can just sleep through the winter, and just when you get hungry, just go out there and get some food and all like that. The races understand that. See, yeah, we're going to have a hard time hauling them slaves all over across the ocean and whatnot. Every now and then, I mean, us and the slaves go under. A big wave hits that small ship, and all the ships are small compared to what they are today.
Right.
See what I mean? So any kind of big wave, I mean, hits you in that South Atlantic and whatnot, I mean, hey, you gone. Slaves, sailors, captain, everybody. I mean, lost at sea. The company that puts up the money, they say, well, hey, they are a year overdue now, so something must have happened. We ain't got no telegraph system. We'll just write it off and get some more ships all built and whatnot and send them out. Got to keep this trade going. We running. I mean, everybody's crying for more Negroes. Say, well, we had huge storms in the South Atlantic. We got that report from somebody that made it back in. Some lost sailors came in on a rowboat, half dead. They told us, hey, there's storms all over the place. That they saw other ships going down before theirs went down. They say, well, that means, according to our figures, if those ships were full, that's something like 2,000 Negroes that we have lost this past year, this company. And plantations down there in Carolinas, they're screaming. They're running short. The Negroes they have are getting too old, unfit to work. Those ain't beat to death. What are we going to do? Well, we just got to come up with some money, more money, and get some more ships built. I mean, you know, we can't give up on this. There's too much at stake.
Wow. As I said, I have heard white people give that exact explanation. They do not mind investing time, energy, for the payoff of maintaining.
Yes, they burn midnight oil while everybody's asleep. They're there with that lantern burning, that feather in their hand. I mean, writing out. I mean, you know, we expect with this new ship that we have down there in the harbor, and you know, with the food that we're able to put on it and all like that, we'll be able to make at least 16 trips before we'll have to refit it, after bringing it in the harbor and patch it up and doing whatnot, considering the seas that we're going to have to go through. You know, because we're going to send this ship in a direction we have never sent ships before. And each one of them, we got 3 of them. The ones we'll send out before will only carry 400 Negroes, you know, for 8 months. The ones we're going to send out now will carry 2,000 each. We stack them up right.
Wow. Again, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., I know you talk in your book about how one of the new strategies is the racial classification confusion. And I have experienced that myself with individuals who they were not clear in saying whether or not they were a white person or a non-white person. And they looked like they could be accepted as white. They also look like they could be classified as non-white. And I have seen where this caused a lot of confusion, a lot of conflict. I have seen where non-white people have started bickering amongst themselves about whether this person was white or not white. Do you have any suggestions for what non-white people can do when they encounter individuals where they are confused about that person's racial classification?
Ask the person, or watch them, and see if they are treated as a white person in all areas of activity. Because there are going to be a growing number of non-white people who are going to be treated as if they're white in some instances. They've already done. They used to do this all the time in South Africa. A Japanese that's born and raised in South Africa doing what they call apartheid was considered non-white and registered as such. That would be on his ID. Now, if he's got a brother born and raised in Japan who came there on business, his brother, while he's there visiting on a passport and a visa, would be classified as white. The brother, you know, same mother and everything. Right. Because, you know, why were they classified as white? The white supremacists said so. You say, yeah, but that don't make sense. It don't have to make sense to you, buddy. It has to make sense to me. You don't have anything to do with it. I do the classifying. See, that's the thing to remember. The white supremacists do the classifying.
So you said pay attention to how that person is treated.
It's treated all the way in every area of activity all the time. See what I mean? You know, because like I said, see, that's something that's a matter of history, documentation right there. And that is just a few years ago in South Africa. That was standard procedure. If the brother of this Japanese that lives here under us permanently, if his brother comes here from Japan to visit him, his brother will be classified as white during the time that he's here. But he will not be classified as white. Why? Because that's the arrangement that works for us as white supremacists. Does it make sense? It makes sense to us because we invented the way our business works. And in this particular case, This works best for our business. What business? The business of white supremacy. Now you see it, now you don't. We work it any kind of way. We make the rules. You don't make the rules. We make the rules. Anytime we make the rules, we make any kind of rules we want to.
I was making an effort to discuss this with other victims of racism, and I was trying to get them to remember that white supremacists are never confused about who is white.
That's it. That's it, because they make the laws.
Right.
Governing who is white, who's non-white, where, when, under what circumstances, and who will do what, and who won't do what.
For sure. That
all it is just a royalist system put on the basis of color. It's the most powerful idea ever thought of. Most powerful political and religious idea ever conceived in the minds of people. The idea of racism in the form of white supremacy. Nothing is proven to be more powerful in interactions between people.
Wow. I want to double check. I know the people are still in the chat room. I want to double check to make sure we didn't. I didn't miss any callers here. 253. Did you have a question, comment that you wanted to make? 253. Question, comment. Okay, not hearing anything. Yes, just listening. Mr. Fuller, if you could please share with folks listening in how they can get your book. I know that's very important. United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept.
They can get it by sending $15 to me, but they'll have to call my number, or they can just make out a check of money, or to make sure they have their return address, and they can mail it to Neely Fuller Jr. That's Neely Fuller Jr. And that's 905 6th Street Southwest, number 212B, Washington, D.C. 20024. Or they can call 202-484-5461. That's 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Outstanding. I hope people please get in touch with him to, get a copy of his book. Very constructive. Last question I wanted to get out before we wrap up the program. I know you have said repeatedly that your book is just a compilation of suggestions for people who are victims of racism, who are having problems with racism, and are looking for ideas that might be helpful in countering racism.
Yes.
You said that you feel that sometimes non-white people don't understand, hey, these are just suggestions. If you don't agree with what I have written, if you don't think a particular part of it makes sense to you or will work for you, disregard it, move on. You think of something else, pick out what will work for you. Could you kind of wrap up just really making sure people grasp this? These are just suggestions.
They're just suggestions. See, and everything that I write, or anybody writes, or anybody says about race, whether they're white or non-white, first thing you want to know is it true, whatever it is? Does it make sense? Is it logical? And can you use it? Bottom line, can you use it for constructive purposes? Presumably it would be for a constructive purpose. Is any part of what anybody is saying, can you use it for a constructive purpose? To produce a constructive result, of course. And that's it. But don't take anybody's word for anything when you start talking about race. Test it yourself. Test it yourself, because you are the one who's in the middle of it. You make the decisions. Listen to everybody. Listen to Fuller. But you don't have to criticize anybody or argue with anybody. You just look at it, test it for whatever it is that you're testing it for, put it to the use that you think you can use it for, and proceed without looking over your shoulder and trusting in your own ideas about what is logical, what is productive, and what isn't. Ultimately, it's for the individual to decide that. The book is directed toward the individual, not organizations, individuals.
And non-white individuals specifically.
Non-white individuals, because they would be the victims of racism.
Right.
No such thing as a white victim of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
A white person can be a victim of injustice.
Right.
They can be mistreated. That's what injustice is, being mistreated. But a white person cannot be a victim of white supremacy.
Mm-hmm. Very important. And I did want to point out, because I believe I've heard you say before that you do not see there's a reason for a white person to read your book, since they are not victims of racism. They can read it, obviously. White supremacists are running the planet, but your book is not specifically written.
My book says on the cover, for victims of racism.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, a person can take an interest in something.
Right.
You write a book for victims of cancer, okay? Mm-hmm. You may not have cancer, but you might be interested in reading about people who do have it, or what they can do about it, or something like that. But you don't have cancer. So the book is not really written for you. A guidebook for cab drivers,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't drive a cab. But you might be interested in reading a book about cab drivers.
Right.
All right? But the book is written for cab drivers. All right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. This is a book. This is a handbook for cab drivers for this city. That's what this book is for. And my particular book is a book for victims of white supremacy, non-white people, all right, who say that they are victims.
Yes, sir.
See, just because my book says that you're a victim, if you're non-white, doesn't make it so. If you declare that you are not a victim, that you don't have any problem with racism, you can even say racism doesn't exist, that somebody's making it all up. You can do that. But for those who say, hey, I'm being victimized by racism, I'm being mistreated by racism, I know that. That's what my book is for that person.
Outstanding. As I said, always a privilege to have you on the program. Definitely appreciate you being with us to share constructive information. And thank you again for being so generous with your time on a Friday afternoon.
Now, I have one concession I have to ask for.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
think you know what it is.
You want a copy?
I'd like to have a copy.
I will.
I like to critique my work.
Yes, sir.
To find out where I'm making mistakes, because we all make mistakes, and I may have made a mistake. I have to listen to it and say, now, I could have done that the way that the code requires me to do it.
Mm-hmm. This program is recorded. I am a victim of racism. I have meager resources, but it is recorded, and I will see if I can get a CD to you. Will the CD work?
Oh, that'll work fine. Okay.
I will get on getting a CD of this program, and I'll see if I can actually get, because you've been here 3 times now, I'll see if I can get all 3 of them on a CD so that you can check them out and evaluate the program.
I would really appreciate that. And whatever assistance I can give you along those lines, requirement, I'll do so.
Outstanding. I should be able to knock it out, but
all right.
I will get in contact with you as soon as I can get that together and get it in the mail for you, because I really appreciate you taking your time to speak with us, sir.
And thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, sir.
Sure.
Woo-hoo. Another episode of The Cows. 3rd time we've had Mr. Fuller with us. Hope hope it was of some constructive value to folks checking out the program. Hope Justice will be back for the weekend shows. We'll be back on Sunday, November 15th. We have two programs. White people here for both programs. We'll have a doctor from the University of Washington. He'll be here for the first program on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, and 12 p.m. Pacific. That'll be the first show. And the second show, we'll have Tom Shapiro, also a white person. He is the author of The Hidden Cost of Being African American. He's pretty much talking about exactly what Mr. Fuller said. If you're a non-white person, you don't have that safety net. If you're a white person, you have access to other white people who have resources. You have that safety net. That's pretty much what his entire book is about. He'll be here on Sunday, November 15th at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, and 3 p.m. Pacific. That's Tom Shapiro. He'll be here on Sunday. Very much looking forward to that. And Mr. Nero, he called in. He gave a great recommendation for Dr. Robert Williams. I got his book yesterday. Wow, he is familiar with the work of Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. He's also familiar with Dr. Francis Cress Welding. He's actually, he quotes a lot of people who've been on this program in his book, so I suspect he will be a pretty constructive guest. That is actually Tuesday, November 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Dr. Robert Williams. He'll be here. Very much looking for that program. His book is all about how white people are programmed to be racist and how they're programmed to see non-white people in the system of white supremacy, particularly black people. One thing I did want to end with before we wrap this program up, Mr. Fuller talked about how white people work very hard to maintain the system of white supremacy. And I think the admitted white supremacist known as Tim Wise is a phenomenal illustration of that. One thing I paid attention to at the beginning of the year, Tim Wise is a hustler. I mean, and I'm not saying this to be disparaging at all. He is a hustler. I mean, anything that happens dealing with racism, he has his 2 cents in on it. The Gen 6 thing went down, bam, he had something written on that. The Reverend Wright thing went down with President Obama during the election, bam, he had something on that. The death threats against President Obama, bam, he got something on that. The arrest and all that at Harvard, bam, got anything that happens with racism, he has his 2 cents on it, whether it's on his blog, whether he's given a speech about it. He is a hustler. You are going to run into Tim Wise if you're doing any sort of research studying racism. You're going to run into Tim Wise because he gets his name out there, and he has access to resources. You get speaking engagements to make a lot of money, being anti-racist, so it's going to be a lot easier for him. But make no mistake about it, as Mr. Fuller said, he burns the midnight oil cranking out those books. I think he has 2 blogs. He speaks all over the country constantly. He is a hustler. And I really think, please do not get me wrong, it's much easier for Tim Wise to do his alleged anti-racist work than it would be for Mr. Fuller or Creed or Back of the Bus or Dr. Welsing or any non-white person who is attempting to counter racism. It's much easier for Tim Wise to do this work. But make no mistake about it, he is a hustler. He burns the midnight oil. And I think one thing non-white people, we're going to have to get on that grind a little more. We talk about it all the time. If there's something non-constructive being on the grind, the non-white people who are attempting to counter racism, we're going to have to get on that grind a little bit more. Just, look at Tim. I would say go to his website, timwise.org. Go to his website. Look at the blog posts. He has an archive that spans years where you can see all the essays he's written. You can see his blog posts. You can see all the books that he's written. I mean, he has an impressive amount of material, an impressive of alleged anti-racist work. I would say non-white people, I probably won't be able to do as much as that. I won't say that, but I definitely will say it will not be as easy for you to do the amount of work that he does. But that doesn't mean that you can't hustle. We're going to have to hustle a little bit if we're going to be successful counter-racist, I think. I'm going to end on that one. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the broadcast. Hopefully you will be back for the Sunday program, both of the Sunday programs. And, I hope this has been constructive. There was a slight audio problem at the beginning of the program, so about the first 15 minutes there's silence, but after that it pops in. So that was my incompetence. My apologies. I should be better at that at this point, but as I still do not have a phone, I had to figure out how to use the phone correctly. So my apologies for the silence the first 15 minutes. I hope the remainder of the broadcast made up for that error. Thank you all. Context of white supremacy. Please check the blog, racism-notes.blogspot.com. And also, please check back at the blog as well, nonwhitealliance.wordpress.com. One more time, nonwhitealliance.wordpress.com. Thank you. We'll be back on Sunday. Cows